The rain struck the glass windows with a dull rhythm. Daniel sat alone in his Bangkok apartment, staring at his phone. The screen glowed against the dim light of the room. He scrolled through old messages. He reread the words that had once filled him with joy. "Baby, I am late. I think we are going to be parents." The message had come from Nicha, his Thai girlfriend. He remembered the rush of emotion he felt that day. Excitement, fear, responsibility. It all mixed into one burning storm inside his chest. Daniel was a foreigner, far from home. He worked long hours in an IT company. The city was loud, crowded, and endless. But with Nicha, he felt grounded. She was warmth in a place that often felt too cold. He could still see her face in his mind. Soft skin, dark eyes, a smile that disarmed him instantly. She had a way of making him believe he was the only man in her world. That night, after her message, he rushed to her apartment. The streets smelled of gasoline and fried food. Vendors shouted for customers in the rain. Daniel barely noticed. His heart pounded louder than the city. When she opened the door, her eyes shimmered with tears. She pulled him inside and whispered, "It is true. I am pregnant." The words froze him. Pregnant. It echoed in his skull like church bells. He tried to speak, but his throat locked. Nicha held his hand and placed it on her stomach. It was flat, empty. But in that moment, he believed. The room smelled faintly of jasmine incense. Her voice was soft, trembling as if fragile. "I am scared," she said. "I do not know what to do. But I know I want you with me." Daniel kissed her forehead. His chest swelled with a strange mix of fear and duty. He thought of his own father back home. A strict man who always preached about responsibility. Daniel knew what he had to do. The next weeks passed in a blur. He sent her money for checkups. He took her to clinics she claimed were too far for her to travel alone. He bought her vitamins. He bought her food she craved late at night. Each time, she smiled and pressed his hand to her belly. "Soon you will be a father," she whispered. And his heart warmed every time. But there were shadows behind her eyes. He noticed it when she looked away too quickly, when she avoided answering certain questions, when her phone lit up with messages and she turned the screen down. At first, he ignored it. Love made him blind. Or maybe he wanted to be blind. One evening, he arrived at her place unannounced. The corridor outside smelled of damp concrete. The fluorescent light flickered above. He knocked, expecting her warm smile. Instead, she looked startled. Her hair messy, her eyes wide as if caught in something. Inside, he noticed 2 empty wine glasses on the table, and a man's jacket draped over the chair. His stomach twisted. Nicha laughed nervously. "A friend came by," she said quickly. "Just a friend." Daniel wanted to believe her, but doubt crawled inside him like an insect burrowing deeper. He forced a smile. He sat with her, but the warmth between them felt thinner that night. Weeks stretched into months. She showed no signs of a growing belly. Her clothes fit the same. Her waist was unchanged. When he asked, she explained it away. "Every woman is different," she said sweetly. "Some women do not show until very late." Her voice calmed him, but only for a while. Then late one night, he woke to the sound of her crying. She whispered on the phone in Thai. Her words were sharp, urgent, but he could not understand them fully. When she noticed him awake, she wiped her tears and smiled. "Everything is fine," she whispered. But her smile looked painted on. Doubt grew heavier. He searched for truth in every glance, every gesture. But love kept him chained. The turning point came on a stormy Friday night. The rain hammered the streets. Daniel returned home early, eager to surprise her. Her apartment door was unlocked. The air inside smelled of smoke and alcohol. He stepped inside, and the world froze. Nicha sat on the couch, laughing. Beside her, another man leaned close, his hand on her thigh. Both of them startled when Daniel entered. The silence was sharp, like glass ready to shatter. Daniel's vision blurred with rage and confusion. "What is this?" he demanded. Her smile vanished. Her eyes turned cold, calculating. "You are early," she said softly, as if nothing was wrong. The man stood, muttered something in Thai, and hurried out. Daniel turned to Nicha, his chest pounding. "Tell me the truth. What is happening?" She looked at him for a long moment. Then her lips curved into a smile that chilled him. You really are stupid, she whispered. The words cut deeper than a knife, and the world he believed in began to collapse. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. Her words echoed in his skull. You really are stupid. The apartment suddenly felt colder. The neon glow from the street bled through the curtains, painting her face in red and green. Her eyes no longer looked soft. They looked sharp, dangerous. He stepped back. His voice cracked. What do you mean? Nicha rose slowly from the couch. Her bare feet made no sound on the floor. She moved closer, her smile twisting into something cruel. You believed everything, she whispered. The baby, the checkups, the vitamins. You gave me money like an obedient little wallet. Her words sliced through him. Daniel's chest tightened, each breath shallow and ragged. He shook his head. No, that cannot be true. You showed me reports. You showed me receipts. She laughed. The sound was soft, mocking. Forged. Bought. Do you know how easy it is here? A piece of paper, a stamp, and you foreigners eat it up. The room spun. His vision blurred. The jasmine incense that usually calmed him now smelled suffocating, thick in his nostrils. Daniel grabbed the back of a chair to steady himself. His stomach churned with sickness. The weight of her words pressed down on him like a collapsing ceiling. He remembered the nights he wired her money. The transfers, 500 here, 1,000 there. Always urgent. Always for the baby. He remembered how she cried on the phone. How she said she needed help. How she swore she could not do it without him. All of it. Lies. His voice cracked with rage. Why? Why would you do this to me? Her eyes narrowed. Because you let me. Because you were easy. You wanted to believe, so I gave you what you wanted. The silence that followed was unbearable. Outside, the rain roared like an angry crowd. Inside, the only sound was his heartbeat pounding in his ears. Daniel staggered backward toward the door. But she stepped closer, her voice low, venomous. Do not think you can just walk away. You still owe me. He froze. Owe you? For what? Her smile widened. For everything I spent. For the time I wasted. For the future I gave up. His jaw clenched. His fists trembled. You lied to me. There is no baby. Her voice dropped into a hiss. There was never going to be a baby. But you promised to take care of me. You do not get to leave now. Daniel's legs felt weak. His heart raced so fast it burned in his chest. He reached for the doorknob, desperate to escape. But before he could open it, she spoke again. If you leave, I will make sure you regret it. I will ruin you. I know things about you. Do not test me. Her words sent a shiver down his spine. The threat hung heavy in the air. Her face was calm, but her eyes gleamed with menace. Daniel stepped into the hallway, the door slamming behind him. The corridor smelled of wet concrete and rust. His legs shook as he stumbled toward the elevator. He pressed the button, his finger trembling. The fluorescent light flickered above him, buzzing like an insect. His reflection in the elevator door looked pale, hollow, broken. When he reached his own apartment, he collapsed onto the bed. The sheets felt damp against his skin. His hands covered his face, but nothing could block the memory of her words. You really are stupid. There was never going to be a baby. The phrases spun around his head like knives. He tried to sleep, but every shadow in the room felt alive. Every creak of the building made him jolt upright. The next morning, his phone buzzed. A message from her. Transfer me 10,000 by tonight, or I go to the police and tell them you abandoned me while I am pregnant. His stomach dropped. The screen blurred as sweat dripped down his forehead. She still claimed the pregnancy. She still used the lie like a weapon. Daniel's hands shook as he typed. There is no pregnancy. Stop this. Her reply came instantly. Then prove it. Show everyone. Let us see who they believe. He knew she was right. He had no proof, no medical documents, nothing but her words and his blind faith. If she went to the authorities, what then? He was a foreigner, alone, vulnerable. The city around him suddenly felt hostile. Every stranger's stare burned into him. Every sound outside seemed threatening. He sat on the edge of the bed, his mind racing. He calculated the money he had already sent. The number grew heavy in his thoughts. 20,000. 30. Closer to 50. $50,000. Gone. He buried his face in his hands, his pulse thundering in his ears. It was not only the money. It was the betrayal. The trust shattered. The love poisoned. The next days blurred together. She sent messages. She called. Sometimes she pleaded sweetly, begging him not to abandon her. Other times she spat venom, threatening to destroy him. Daniel stopped eating. The world outside his window faded into meaningless noise. All he could see was her face. That smile. Those words. "You really are stupid." And deep inside, he feared she was right. The nights grew longer. Daniel could not rest. Every time he closed his eyes, he heard her voice. Sometimes it was soft, pleading. "I need you. I cannot do this alone. Please help me." Sometimes it was sharp, cutting. "You think you can run away? I will destroy you. I will make sure everyone knows you abandoned me." The duality tore at him. He never knew which version of her would appear on his screen. The sweet girlfriend or the venomous liar. His phone buzzed again. The screen glowed in the darkness. A new message. "Meet me tomorrow. We need to talk about the future of our baby." His chest tightened. Baby. The word had become poison. He wanted to ignore her, but fear gnawed at him. If she truly went to the police, he could lose everything. His job, his visa, his freedom. The next day, he agreed to meet her. The cafe was loud, filled with clattering cups and low voices. The smell of coffee hung heavy in the air. She arrived late, dressed in a pale pink dress. Her face was painted with sweetness, her smile practiced. No trace of the cold cruelty he had seen before. She sat across from him, leaning forward. "Daniel," she said softly, "I know things have been hard, but we can make this work. You just need to support me." Her hand slid across the table, reaching for his. He pulled away. His stomach churned at her touch. "Stop lying," he whispered. "There is no pregnancy. You scammed me." For a moment, her smile vanished. Her eyes hardened. But then, just as quickly, the sweetness returned. "Do you really want to fight with me?" she asked gently. "Think about your job. Think about your reputation. Who will they believe? The local woman carrying a baby, or the foreign man trying to escape responsibility?" Her words struck like hammers. He could almost see the headlines. "Foreign man abandons pregnant girlfriend." It would ruin him. Daniel clenched his fists under the table. His knuckles ached. His jaw throbbed. But he said nothing. She leaned closer, her perfume sharp, floral, suffocating. "Transfer me 20,000 by tonight. Then we can forget this fight." He stared at her, his chest rising and falling rapidly. "You already took so much." Her smile flickered again. "You want peace, do you not? Pay me, and we move forward." The noise of the cafe blurred into a dull roar. He heard nothing but her voice, soft and poisonous. When he left the cafe, his legs felt like stone. The sun outside was blinding, but he felt trapped in darkness. That night, he opened his banking app. His balance glowed on the screen. The number was shrinking, draining. Every transfer pulled him deeper into the void. He wired the money. His hands trembled as he pressed confirm. A weight settled on his chest. It was not relief. It was defeat. Days passed. She grew bolder. Her demands increased. Sometimes she asked for luxury bags. Sometimes for expensive dinners. Always framed as for the baby. Daniel no longer believed. But he paid. Because fear had him chained. One night, while walking back from work, he felt someone following him. The street was narrow, lined with flickering lights. His footsteps echoed off the wet pavement. Behind him, another pair of footsteps. He quickened his pace. So did they. His throat tightened. He turned sharply into a small alley, pressing his back against the wall. The footsteps grew louder, closer, then stopped. A man appeared, tall, with a cigarette dangling from his lips. The smoke curled in the damp night air. He stared at Daniel, his expression unreadable. "You are Daniel, yes?" the man asked in broken English. Daniel's pulse roared in his ears. "Yes." The man flicked his cigarette away. "She says you owe. You pay, or things will get difficult." His stomach dropped. She had sent someone, a messenger, a threat. Daniel's voice cracked. "I already paid. I gave her everything." The man shrugged. "She says more. You pay more. Then he turned and disappeared into the shadows, leaving Daniel trembling in the alley. That night, Daniel locked every door, every window. But he could not lock out the fear. It seeped into him, tightening around his chest like a snake. The next morning, his phone buzzed again. A photo. It showed his office building. The angle was from the street, taken that very morning. Her message followed. "We know where you are. Do not play games." Daniel's vision blurred. His hands shook violently. This was no longer just about money. This was a trap, and he was sinking deeper. He realized then that he was not dealing with a lover. He was dealing with something far darker. Something that fed on fear, on weakness, on his blind trust. He sat on his bed, the city noise muffled behind the glass. His chest burned with panic. His mind screamed at him to run. But where could he run? He was alone in a foreign land. Surrounded. Trapped. And outside, the rain began to fall again. Soft at first. Then harder. Like the sound of 1,000 fists pounding on his window. The city no longer felt alive. It felt like a cage. Every street corner, every shadow, every sudden movement made Daniel's chest seize. He walked to work with his head low, eyes darting. Was that man watching him? Was that motorbike following too closely? Every sound of footsteps made his pulse spike. At the office, he could not focus. The hum of computers, the chatter of coworkers, all blurred together. The only thing clear was the glow of his phone. Each buzz made his heart stop. Another message. A simple line. "We are waiting." No name. No explanation. Just the weight of unseen eyes pressing against him. That night, he returned to his apartment and found the door slightly open. His stomach twisted. He froze in the hallway, the fluorescent light flickering above. Slowly, he pushed the door open. The air smelled faintly of smoke. Inside, the living room looked normal. But on the table, there was a single object. A baby pacifier. New. And used. Placed carefully like a trophy. Daniel's knees buckled. His vision spun. The room felt hostile, invaded. He backed away, slamming the door shut, locking it twice. His breath came in sharp gasps. Someone had been inside. His phone buzzed. A new photo. It showed the pacifier on his table. The caption read, "Do not forget your responsibility." His hand shook so hard he nearly dropped the phone. He wanted to scream, to call the police, to run. But his mind tangled itself in fear. Police. What could they do? Would they believe him or her? Would they see him as the guilty one, the foreigner who used and abandoned a local woman? The thought made his blood run cold. He imagined being handcuffed, paraded through the station. He imagined headlines branding him as a monster. He sat on the edge of the bed, the city lights spilling through the blinds. The neon glow painted the room in red and blue, like police sirens frozen in place. His phone buzzed again. This time it was her. Her voice through a voice note, soft, almost tender. "Daniel, why are you fighting me? I only want us to be a family. Stop resisting. Support me, and everything will be fine. We will raise our baby together." Her tone was honey, but underneath it, he could hear the steel. The threat hidden inside the sweetness. His chest tightened. He wanted to believe in the girl he first met. The girl who laughed in the night markets, who held his hand at the river, who whispered dreams about the future. But that girl was gone. Or maybe she never existed. Maybe it had always been this. A mask. A performance. A trap. The following days blurred into paranoia. He jumped at every sound. He slept with the lights on. He checked his locks again and again until his fingers hurt. At work, his manager pulled him aside. "You seem distracted. Is everything all right?" Daniel forced a smile, but his throat burned with lies. How could he explain? That his girlfriend had faked a pregnancy, stolen his money, and unleashed threats that followed him like shadows? No one would believe it. Not here. Not now. That evening, as he walked home, a motorbike pulled up beside him. The rider wore a helmet, visor down. The engine growled, low and menacing. Daniel's stomach dropped. The rider slowed, keeping pace with him. Then, without a word, the rider tossed something onto the ground at his feet. A small envelope. Then the bike sped off, its taillight vanishing into the night. Daniel's hands trembled as he bent down. He opened the envelope under the dim street light. Inside was a single photo, It showed his parents' house back in his home country. The porch, the front door, taken from the street, like a hunter stalking prey. His chest tightened, so hard he could barely breathe. They knew where his family lived. He staggered backward, the photo slipping from his hands. The world tilted, the street spun. He pressed himself against the wall, gasping for air. His phone buzzed again. A new message. We can reach anyone, anywhere. Do not forget that. Terror gripped him completely now. This was no longer about money. This was control. Domination. A leash around his throat. That night, he could not sleep. He paced the apartment until dawn, every creak of the floor making him spin around in panic. At sunrise, he stared at himself in the mirror. His eyes were bloodshot, hollow. His skin pale, drawn tight over his bones. He barely recognized the man staring back. The thought burned inside his skull. How much longer could he live like this? How much more could they take from him before nothing remained? He whispered to his reflection, "I need to escape." But even as the words left his mouth, the phone buzzed again. Her name lit up the screen. And with it, a new demand. "Meet me tonight. Bring cash. Or everyone learns the truth about you." Daniel stared at the screen, his pulse hammering. There was no truth, only lies. But lies had power, and hers were destroying him. The night air was heavy. Bangkok's streets buzzed with neon signs and the hum of motorbikes. Daniel walked slowly, each step weighed down by dread. His pocket held a stack of cash. The bills felt poisonous, burning against his leg. Money he could not afford to give. Money that was the price of silence. She had chosen the meeting place. A dim restaurant tucked into a side street. The kind of place where no one asked questions. The smell of grilled meat mixed with exhaust fumes. When he arrived, she was already there. Nicha sat at a corner table, her posture calm, almost regal. Her eyes met his, and her smile was soft. But he no longer saw sweetness, only calculation. She gestured to the seat across from her. "Sit." Daniel obeyed. The chair creaked beneath him, loud in the tense silence. His throat felt dry, his heartbeat unsteady. She leaned forward, resting her chin on her hand. "You brought it." He placed the envelope on the table. Her fingers slid across the surface, pulling it toward her. She opened it, fanned through the bills with practiced ease, and smiled. "Good. You are learning." Daniel's hands clenched under the table. His jaw ached from holding back his anger. He wanted to scream, to accuse, to demand everything back. But the memory of that photo of his parents' house chained his tongue. She noticed his silence. "You should be grateful," she said softly. "I am protecting you. Without me, others would hurt you worse." Her words sank like stones in his stomach. So she was not only scamming him, she was shielding him, or pretending to, keeping him trapped in a web she controlled. He forced the words out. "There is no baby. Admit it." Her eyes sparkled with amusement. "Does it matter?" Daniel's chest tightened. "Yes, it matters. You lied to me. You stole from me." She leaned closer, her perfume strong, almost choking. "You wanted a family. You wanted me. I gave you something to believe in. And you paid for it. That is how the world works." Her voice was calm, confident, untouchable. And then her tone shifted, sharp as a blade. "But if you keep pushing me, I can make your life disappear here. Do you understand?" The restaurant around them seemed to vanish. The clatter of dishes, the murmur of other diners, all faded into silence. Only her voice remained, pressing against him like a hand on his throat. Daniel's vision swam. His fingers dug into the edge of the table. He whispered, "Why me?" Her smile widened. "Because you were easy." The words gutted him. He wanted to stand, to walk out, to never see her again. But his legs refused to move. Fear nailed him to the chair. Then, from the back of the restaurant, a figure approached. The same man he had seen in the alley, the one with the cigarette. He stood behind Nicha, his arms crossed, his stare heavy. Nicha glanced at him, then back to Daniel. "You see, you are not alone. We take care of things, but you need to keep paying." Daniel's throat burned. His voice broke. "How much more do you want?" Her smile turned almost playful. "As much as you have." The man behind her chuckled, low and threatening. Daniel's stomach knotted. His body shook with helpless rage. The cash was gone now. Taken. And he knew it would never be enough. No matter how much he gave, she would demand more. When he finally stumbled out of the restaurant, the night air hit him like ice. The neon lights blurred through his tears. The street sounds were loud, but his mind was louder, screaming. He walked without direction, his thoughts unraveling. His reflection appeared in a shop window. Hollow eyes, sunken cheeks, a man broken. He whispered to himself, "I have to end this." But how? If he stopped paying, they would hurt him. If he went to the police, they might not believe him. If he ran, they might follow. The trap was perfect. Tight. Unyielding. That night, back in his apartment, he sat in darkness. The glow of the city seeped through the blinds, painting him in fractured light. His phone lay on the table, silent for now. But he knew it would buzz again. His mind raced through impossible choices. Run. Fight. Confess. Disappear. And then, faintly, he thought of something else. Proof. If he could prove the pregnancy was a lie, he could escape. If he could expose her, maybe the threats would crumble. Maybe he could break free. The thought flickered inside him, weak but alive. Hope. For the first time in weeks, his breath came steady. His hands stopped trembling. He whispered into the dark, "I will find the truth." But as if the walls themselves were listening, the phone lit up. A new message. From her. "Good night, Daniel. Sweet dreams. Remember, we are always watching." The hope inside him dimmed, but did not die. He clutched the phone, his eyes burning with exhaustion and fury. If he was going to survive, he needed to move carefully. He needed to uncover her lies before she destroyed him completely. And outside, the rain began again. Soft at first, then pounding, like a warning beating against his window. Daniel could not sleep. The ticking clock in his rented room in Chiang Mai felt like a hammer against his skull. Every sound outside, a scooter, a dog barking, the creak of the old wooden building, made him twitch. He had spent the last 2 days gathering every shred of evidence he could. Bank transfers, screenshots of chats where Lila promised a marriage and a family, voice messages where she cried about the baby that never existed. He saved it all on a flash drive. But his hands trembled as he looked at the tiny device. Would anyone even care? Would the police take it seriously? Or would he be dismissed as another foolish foreigner who fell in love too quickly? The next morning, he forced himself to walk into the local police station. The waiting area smelled of dust and old paper. A ceiling fan whirred lazily above. A group of locals sat silently, avoiding eye contact. Daniel stepped up to the desk. The officer on duty looked up from his paperwork, unimpressed. "Yes," the officer asked flatly. Daniel explained everything. He poured out the story in broken sentences, his voice shaking. The officer listened for a while, then leaned back in his chair. "So, you gave her money," the officer said slowly. "You believe she was pregnant. Now you say she lied." Daniel nodded desperately. "Yes, it was fraud. She planned it. I have evidence." The officer sighed. "You foreigners," he muttered under his breath. "Always the same story." Daniel's stomach dropped. "I am telling the truth," Daniel said louder now. "She stole $50,000 from me. That is not just a mistake. That is a crime." The officer's eyes flickered for a moment. 50,000, he repeated, his tone shifting slightly. Daniel placed the flash drive on the desk. "Everything is here," he said. "Please. I just want justice." The officer picked it up but did not plug it in. Instead, he leaned closer, his voice dropping. "You need to be careful," he said. "Some women like her, they have connections. If you push too hard, you may regret it." Daniel's throat tightened. "Are you saying I should do nothing?" he asked. The officer shrugged. "I am saying this is Thailand. Things are different here." Daniel walked out of the station with sweat pouring down his back. The sun was blinding. The street smelled of grilled meat and gasoline. Tourists laughed nearby, oblivious. But Daniel felt the walls closing in. He was alone. He was a foreigner in a land where the rules, bent in ways he did not understand. That night, his phone buzzed. A message from Lila. It was just one sentence. "Stop what you are doing, or you will regret it." Daniel's hands went numb. He stared at the glowing screen in the darkness, his heart pounding in his ears. The game was no longer about money. It was about survival. Daniel did not leave his room the next morning. The curtains were drawn tight. The air felt heavy, stale, suffocating. He had barely eaten in 2 days. Every time his phone buzzed, his body tensed. More messages from Lila. You think the police will help you? They know who I am. You will leave Thailand with nothing. Daniel's mind raced. He replayed every moment with her, every kiss, every promise. Had all of it been staged? Every tear, every smile. The thought made his chest ache. But then came the worst message of all. A photo. It showed Daniel walking out of the police station. Taken from across the street. Someone was watching him. His heart slammed in his chest. She was not alone. She had people following him. He was being hunted. The walls of his tiny room seemed to close in tighter. The buzzing neon sign outside cast a blood-red glow through the cracks of the curtain. He could not sit still any longer. He grabbed the flash drive, shoved it into his pocket, and stormed out. The streets were alive with noise, scooters weaving through traffic, vendors shouting, music blaring from bars. But to Daniel, it all sounded distant, muted, unreal. He made his way to Lila's apartment, the one place he swore he would never step foot in again. His fists clenched. His jaw ached from grinding his teeth. When he reached the building, he stood frozen outside for a moment. The concrete walls loomed above him, stained with mildew, windows glowing faintly. Then, with a rush of adrenaline, he climbed the stairs 2 at a time. He banged on her door. The wood rattled under his fist. "Lila!" he shouted. "Open the door!" For a long moment, there was silence. Only the hum of a nearby air conditioner. Then, the lock clicked. The door opened slowly. Lila stood there, calm, almost amused. Her silk robe shimmered under the dim yellow light. Her hair was perfect, as if she had been expecting him. "Daniel," she said softly, "you look terrible." His eyes burned with rage. "You lied," he spat. "You stole everything from me. And now you are threatening me." She tilted her head, smiling faintly. "You foreigners never learn," she said. "You come here with your money, your dreams, and you think love can be bought. But in Thailand, nothing is free." Daniel's chest heaved. His fists shook. "I will expose you," he said. "I will not stop until everyone knows what you are." Her smile widened. "Do you really think anyone will believe you?" she asked. "Or do you think they will believe me, the poor Thai woman abandoned by a rich foreign man?" The room seemed to tilt. Daniel felt dizzy, sick. But then his eyes caught something. On the table behind her, a small black notebook. She saw his gaze shift. Her smile faltered. Daniel lunged. The next moments blurred. Her scream, the crash of the table, the struggle as they both clawed for the book, and then silence. Daniel stood panting, the notebook in his hands. Inside, pages filled with names, amounts of money and dates. A list of victims. Dozens of them. His blood ran cold. He was not the first, and he would not have been the last. But now he had proof. Lila's eyes burned with fury. "You do not know what you have done," she hissed. "You have no idea who protects me." Daniel clutched the notebook tighter, his heart racing. For the first time in weeks, he felt a spark of hope, and also a chilling certainty. The real nightmare was only beginning. Daniel sat in the departure lounge at Suvarnabhumi Airport, staring at the boarding gate without really seeing it. In his bag, zipped inside a hidden pocket, was the black notebook. The ink on its pages had stained his fingers like a curse. He had not gone back to the police. He knew better now. Some battles could not be won on foreign soil, not when the enemy had shadows protecting her. But the truth, the names, the victims, the patterns, it was all there. And he would carry it home. As he waited, he thought of the last time he had held Lila's hand. Her fingers had been warm, delicate, soft. She had leaned her head against his shoulder and whispered that she wanted a family. For a moment, he had believed he had found the life he had been searching for. Now, he knew it had all been theater. A performance perfected over years, sold to men like him. $50,000 was gone. But it was more than money. It was trust. It was hope. It was the dream of a future that had never truly existed. His chest ached with the weight of it. The announcement for his flight echoed through the terminal. Passengers shuffled around him, pulling luggage, speaking in different languages. Daniel stood slowly, his legs heavy. He was leaving Thailand, but he knew he would never escape the scars it had carved into him. As he walked toward the gate, he glanced once more at the city lights beyond the glass. Beautiful, deceptive, like her. He whispered to himself, almost like a prayer, almost like a curse. Love can heal, but it can also destroy. And with that, Daniel disappeared into the crowd, carrying the truth like a wound that would never fully close.